Hey, so in this video, I'm going to be telling you a bit more about the details section and also the confidence score and suggested purchase quantity. Now, obviously this is all of your number work, and it will also be BuyBotPro helping you out, telling you a bit more about the item and also how many it thinks you should buy. And you can use that to help your judgment of how many you will end up buying for that product, assuming everything else works out as well. So obviously a really important part of the analysis is obviously going to be your numbers. Now, let me just break down what it is that we're actually looking at here. So of course you've got some basic information like ASIN, UPC, so Universal Product Code, EAN, which is basically like a barcode number, brand, profit margin, max sold price, so the max price that the item ever sold for, the max buy cost, the break even, so where you're not making a profit nor a loss, total costs, and you have a storage fee slider here, which obviously as you're storing something in Amazon's warehouse, so if you're doing FBA and you're storing stuff in the warehouse, if you're storing it in there for, a period of time, say it's going to be a couple of months, maybe you're getting something ready for Q4 or something like that, and it's going to be a couple of months, you'll obviously slide this, and this will affect your total costs because obviously Amazon is storing it for longer. You've got a estimated ROI and profit, and obviously this is entirely dependent on your costs. So the things that you've gotten BuyBotPro to take into account by adding stuff into your settings, Amazon fees, and so forth, and obviously your sell price. So everything's taken into account here to produce these estimated numbers. Now, obviously we went through some of the settings briefly in the getting started video. Obviously, just as a reminder, please make sure that you have entered in your VAT status, ROI method. You can see all the calculations here. You just choose the one which resonates best with you. Obviously, just as a reminder, if you aren't sure, method 1 is the most basic way to work out ROI. Method 4 is our advised one for UK sellers. Method 5 is our advised one for US sellers, simply because they take a lot more into account, including Amazon fees. And obviously method 4, it's VAT where applicable, and method 5 is VAT exclusive, which of course works best if you are in the US. Obviously other fees and such, prep fees, shipping costs, and so forth. If you're not sure what these are, you can find out from your prep center if you're using one, or shipping costs, you can find that out from your courier if you aren't sure. So if we now go back to everything in here, the great thing about the total cost is that it will tell you a breakdown of what exactly is taken into account here. So obviously the Amazon fees are taken from the Amazon calculator itself upon the point of analysis. So this will always be accurate, even if Amazon changed their fees and so forth. The EFN stuff, that's if we are part of the, if we're using the European fulfillment network to fulfill the product. In this case, we aren't, so it's 0. Obviously we've got the UK VAT there. That is how much that is owed to HMRC. The prep fee, obviously it's taking that into account, and obviously I don't have any extra fees. I've not actually got a shipping cost entered in, which I would do. Obviously, I just happen not to have entered it in this case, but obviously you'll have a shipping cost most likely. So obviously there would be something there. So it's a summary of all of your costs. Now, if you are curious about how storage fees affect this, if you just change that, you can see how that changes. So you can see like the storage fees that's taken into account here. And also, if obviously we were to change anything like the sell price and so forth, that will obviously affect all this stuff. Now, if you are buying something and you have a discount, say, you can use the discount section just below right here to factor that in. So if we tap 10%, if we have a 10% off, obviously it might already work that out for us at the checkout of wherever it is that we're buying the product from. So in that case, we just enter in that reduced amount into the sale price anyway. But if for whatever reason it doesn't do that, or we're curious as to how the discount's going to affect something, we can obviously apply that in here. You can stack them, you can do buy one, get one free or whatever. You can enter in your own custom amount, whatever it is that you want to do. And obviously that will affect what's going on in here. So it shows you the discounts, how much is actually taken off, and it recalculates the ROI and profit. You'll find that obviously when you have discounts for things, it's going to help your profit margin very nicely. And sometimes a discount, especially a sizable one, can turn a not so good deal into a really good one. So so like it can really change the game. So as and where you can get discounts, like even if you sign up to some mailing lists or something like that, for wherever it is you're planning to buy from, that can help you get these sorts of things sometimes. So you can use this to help you calculate that stuff. Obviously, if you flick on merchant fulfilled, so if you do this, obviously you can choose what shipping cost you're working with. There's some preset ones that you can add into your settings, so you'll just set whatever the presets are, and there's an option for you to enter it in yourself, whatever that shipping cost is, and that will factor that one in. And obviously with merchant fulfilled, you won't have things like the FBA fees and so forth. So in some cases, sometimes doing something merchant fulfilled is better than doing it FBA, but of course it's down to you to make that judgment. So obviously you can see how the costs have drastically changed here, but if I was to fulfill this myself. So it's always worth weighing up. And then, of course, we have the AI analysis. So BuyBotPro is using artificial intelligence here to give us a confidence score, which is basically a second opinion on the product. So it's using the entire analysis to give us this score. Now, obviously, if we aren't eligible, if there's an IP issue, it will say, no, don't go ahead with it. If that's all okay, obviously, it's going to factor in some other things as well. If the sales are just not that great, if it's really unstable, if the buy box isn't really being shared, obviously these are reasons as to why the confidence score will move down. And in this case, it's basically giving me this score. It's given me a few reasons to consider before we go ahead with the item. Now, regardless of the score, whether it's good, bad, somewhere in the middle, it's just the top three things regardless. So if it's a good confidence score, there might still be some things to be wary of. So like the sale price being unstable, it's important to know, even if it is a good confidence score, based on the other parts of the analysis. So it's just stuff to consider basically. And then we have the suggested purchase quantity, which is how many it thinks we should buy based on the analysis. Now, you can tweak certain parameters in here. So obviously I've set everything relatively low in this instance. So minimum profit, minimum ROI, and then BSR parameters. So I want the item to be within the top 100% of the items category, which of course is going to factor in loads of things. If I wanted to be a bit more specific and I wanted it to be within the top 50% of the items category, I could set that. The reason why I might want to tweak the minimum BSR is because I might want to cut out the very top bit of the BSR, because I know that in that top range there's going to be very, very, very competitive sellers, because those are like the best items. So if I want to cut out like the very top bit, I might have that at 5, for example. Minimum profit, I would say, depending on where you are in your journey, will affect what you have as your minimum profit and minimum ROI. Basically, what's going to make you happy. Now, when you're starting out, people will advise around about 30% ROI for like a good product, and that is a good ROI to have for like a good product when you're starting out. And obviously the higher the ROI, the better. However, realistically, for some items, you won't find them necessarily at that 30%. I found things where they've had like a 15% ROI, but the sales volume has been really, really, really good. So I've bought things in bulk before that I've only had say like 15% ROI each. But obviously the sales volume means that all of those little bits of profit that I made from those products, in fact, I ended up selling them for a little bit more thanks to using a repricer like Profit Protector Pro. All those little bits add up to make me like a really nice profit, and I've really enjoyed selling that item. So don't knock things like that necessarily, and of course it depends what it is, and of course things like sales volume will affect that and so forth. So that's why I would say not to knock something with, say, an ROI of anywhere between like 15 to 30% in that range. Minimum profit, I would say starting out, if it makes you probably at least £1, that is okay. Obviously you can set that higher if you want to, at least £1 or £2, maybe £3. That's a good starting out profit. But if you have it at £1, it means that you're not necessarily cutting off items that might do really well just to get you ungated, say. Sometimes it's not all rainbows and sparkles with getting ungated. Sometimes it is just buying the stuff that makes you a little bit just for the sake of getting you ungated, which means that it opens you up to a whole world of opportunity, but you've done that ungating bit with that item. So it's totally up to you what you set in here, and obviously the score will take that into account. You always need to remember to save and sync as well in your settings. So that way it takes those things into account. But yeah, it just produces this stuff to basically just give you some advice. That suggested purchase quantity, by the way, that has changed simply because I think we had something set slightly differently from before, and now it's switched back to what it was prior. Just referring to that very quickly, you can add in your stock capital, which is the total amount you have to spend, and your max buy count. So if you know you're not going to buy any more than a certain amount in one go, you can set that limit there, and it won't suggest an amount that makes you spend anything more than 10% of your stock capital, so your overall budget. So it factors in what you have to say, it factors in the analysis and what's going on with the item to produce that confidence score and the suggested purchase quantity. So all this number stuff obviously is a really important part of your analysis. I just thought I'd break that down a little bit further. Hopefully that helped.